Yeah, but good that we have to go.
Are you okay with being on video? So basically what I'm saying is this, is that I would imagine that if someone did something to you like they stole from you.
So recording that.
Yes. If someone is stealing from you, you would object to that on some sense of that is wrong.
Well, because it damaged me.
Right. So you would innately hold to some view of objective morality. Do you understand what I mean?
But it's not objective morality.
Right, but therefore, if you understand that though, and you were consistent with that intellectually, you would have to say something like, although I feel wronged, there is no real basis for me to condemn that action. It is simply my opinion and my view, and probably my upbringing, and probably my culture, that has made me condemn that.
Yeah.
But if you were consistent with that, there isn't any real reason you should actually be angry. You were just commissioned to be angry.
Well, but it damaged me
Right.
at the moment. Like if you steal from me,
Yeah.
I had a property and I lost it to you.
Yeah.
And then, because it damaged me, I condemn it, first because it damaged me, and then second because of the reasons that you said it that might surprising probably to damage.
But again, on your foundation of morality, even if you say these things that it damaged you, it caused you harm, that's not a real objective standard. You're saying
Yeah,
yourself.
there's
that's
no real objective standard.
Right, in which case then I say that actually it's the other way around. I say based on subjective morality, harm is a good thing.
To you, it was good thing.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
it's arbitrary.
It is.
But you
That's
don't
why
act as if it's arbitrary.
That's why we have law.
But what I'm saying is you don't act in your own personal life as if it were arbitrary. You act as if it's objective. If someone hurts your family, do you say, well, it's just arbitrary, I have these feelings, but I was just raised that way. It's not really wrong. It's just subjectively wrong.
If someone hurts my family and I
No,
can't
you
deny
go
it
after-
by law,
you go after them and you say that's
I'll
horrible.
go to law and be like, come
But
and
you yourself will say that is wrong. And innately, your experience tells you that it is objectively wrong, which is why you get angry. It makes no sense to get angry over something that you intellectually think isn't real. Do you understand?
I understand your point.
Right.
But
So
I'm
you're not
coming-
being consistent.
Well, because exactly,
Right.
I'm not being consistent from your perspective because you're claiming that there's objective morality.
From your perspective of it being subjective, you're not consistent because you intellectually say it's subjective.
Well, the fact that I
But-
say that it's
yeah.
subjective,
Right.
it implies that it's inconsistent because subjective changes from time to time.
Right. Well,
So
why
it
would
is-
you hold to an inconsistent worldview?
Well, because it's different from situation to situation.
But if it differs from situation, well, I would say it does objectively. You would say that's just culture, or that's just arbitrary choice, law. Could be whatever it might be. Some human somewhere decided that was wrong. But you don't act that way. What I'm saying is, in your own life, if you think of times when you've been wronged, I promise you that your innate emotional experience will tell you it's objectively wrong, not subjectively wrong. If it did, you wouldn't get angry. You would simply say, well, that was his choice.
But then you're saying that this objective morality that we have, it should come from an objective being.
Yes. And I think that God is the best explanation of that objective being.
Well, then that's argument from ignorance.
Why?
Because we don't know why we have the objective morality. So you're implying that it's God. But then when you ask me to prove that it's not God, I don't have a proof because it's not God.
So
because I don't know, and you don't know how we have the objective morality.
So I would say
using
this.
argument from ignorance.
No, I will actually go further than this. Let me explain. I would say that the best explanation of objective morality that I think we all experience is that there is an objective
We
source.
say that there is objective morality.
There is an objective source that is logically necessary and the greatest conceivable being. This is the basis of theism. So he would agree with that as a Muslim. so we would say that God is the source of goodness and the greatest source of goodness from an objective point. There is no possible world in which God does not exist. So God is a logically necessary being. Therefore, and I would say that God is a mind, and because God is a mind, it is from that single mind that we get our understanding and experience of objective morality. Now, I think that accounts for objective morality. Now, I'm perfectly happy for you to say, actually, there's a better way to account for it. And if you can give me that, I will happily listen to it. But I think that theism is the best way to account for objective morality.
But you literally did the same thing, but you just changed the phrasing. You're still using argument from ignorance.
Why?
Because we don't know how we have the objective morality, so we're assuming that's God.
No, I'm saying there's
I need
good
to
reason.
prove that it is God.
I'm saying there's good reason to think it is God. Namely, that God is a mind, and a mind is a source of all objective morality because it's minds that experience that objective morality. God is a logically necessary being, means that he's not contingent on anything else, and hence will explain its objectivity. It's not subjectivity. Like, for example, I'm subjective, right? Like, I'm a contingent being. It doesn't matter if I die tomorrow. It doesn't mean anything about the moral world. If there was objective morality, which I think is innate and we experience it, the only way, in my view, that you can explain that is by an objective source that has to be logically necessary. The only logically necessary mind that we know of is God. That is my argument for God's
That's the
existence.
only way that you are putting to explain it.
Give me another one. I would love to hear another objective reason that explains objective morality.
I don't know.
Hey, now that's more like an argument from ignorance. If you want to affirm objective morality, which to be fair you haven't, but if you wanted to, and you said I simply don't know, that would be an argument from ignorance. I've given a positive case as to why God is the best
You're
explanation.
using argument from ignorance.
But I just gave you arguments.
No, you did not. You
Did
just
you not hear my
detailed.
argument?
I heard your
Yeah,
argument.
okay, what's
but
my
you just
argument?
You just detailed
Right.
your argument for ignorance.
Right.
We're still. I need a proof. You said that logically there should be a mind being that created that objective morality.
They didn't create it, it's innate within that mind. So think of it this way.
So is God? Should God go through our morality, the objective morality? So is God forced to go through what's right and what's wrong?
So God is not forced to go through the laws that he sets for humanity, because
So
they're
he
set
sets
for
them.
humanity.
He sets the
No,
objective
laws. I make a difference between morals and laws. So the laws that are meant for Israel, that are meant for the world, God is not abiding by. But the moral nature that he has is innate within himself. So God is the greatest goodness. God is love. God is that objective
Then
morality.
he's at the same time he's the greatest bad,
The greatest what?
the greatest worst, the greatest
Why is
killer,
it?
the
Why is
greatest
it?
bad.
Why?
Well, because from the morality implies what's right and what's wrong. You're just taking what's right and you're leaving what's wrong.
I don't understand what you mean by that. Are you trying to say that God is evil or God is bad? Sorry.
Well, yeah. But then let's not jump to that argument first because we're still in God himself. And
Look, I think that argument gives explanatory power that explains objective morality and why we experience it. Now, if you are
you would
unable
like
to
to
give
believe, you would like to believe in that argument because that's the only argument that we've got on the table.
No, we have many. That's just one I picked. Hey, we go to another one. Do you want to go to another one?
I'd love to hear.
Okay, so before we do that,
For
I do
objective
think...
morality.
Well, no,
Source
for
of
God's
objective
existence.
morality. No, for source of objective morality.
Right. Okay,
The
so...
only thing that we have on the table is God.
Right.
So you would like to believe in that. But
No,
then
I
you
think
believe-
God is the best explanatory
Yeah.
of that objective morality.
because that's
best
the only thing
explanation.
we have on the table.
The only thing that's viable, yeah.
Yeah, because you asked me to give
Well,
you another
I'll give you
one,
another
and I
one.
don't have
Let me give you another one.
No.
So,
about the source of objective morality.
Yeah, I'm going to explain what else could be the source of that objective morality.
Okay.
You could say it's an abstract object. An abstract object in philosophy is something that doesn't have a concrete implementation on the world. Like, for example, I'm a concrete object, I exist in the real world. An abstract object would be like the number 3. Now, the reason why I don't think an abstract object could be the source of objective morality is because an abstract object doesn't have any causal power. So in other words, it can't cause anything to be. The only thing that can cause things to be, like right and wrong, would be our mind. And I think that would be the singular mind that we would describe as outside of space and time, and I would define that as God, because that fits the criteria that philosophers follow for many thousands of years to describe God. Now, you can refute that by either finding a fault with it, or you can say, here's a better explanation of objective morality.
No matter how many sources we list of objective morality, we don't know how many are there.
Sure.
Yeah. So on giving the ones that we have on the table, let's say we have 20, you decide to choose that one because that was the most believable thing to you.
It has the best explanatory power of how we have objective
you.
morality. Well, I think it's convincing.
I don't
understand?
see it
And
convincing
many
because
theists
I'm
also
still
agree with
seeing- Because I'm still seeing that because we don't know how many on the table we have, you're just picking that one. I don't know how many there are on the table.
It's like with science, yeah? When you have different theories, you evaluate the theories, and you follow the theory that has the best explanation and the most evidence.
Yes.
Right.
How many theories we have, we know. But
Right.
here we don't know how many we have
Okay,
on the table.
but we don't know how many scientific theories there could be about gravity in the future. But based on the science we know now, we make our choices now. So based on the philosophy we have of objective morality about how that could potentially be, we pick the one that it best conforms to reason, that best explains the reality that we experience. Now, you don't seem to be convinced by that. Fair enough. But I think that your disagreement is not on the argument itself, but on the fact that you feel as if there could be another explanation we simply don't know about. With respect, I think that's more of an argument from ignorance.
Sorry?
With respect, I think that's more of an argument from ignorance because you're saying, I don't know about others, others could be true, I'm not going to say it. I think if you were consistent, you would pick the one that is the best currently, and you would follow that, which I implore you to do.
I'll be repeating myself now, which I don't want to go.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Because
should we move forward then?
yeah.
Okay, another argument for God's existence will be the Cosmological argument.
What is it?
Okay, so everything that has a beginning. No, hang on. Give me a second, please.
Everything that has a beginning has a cause.
There we go. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. Thank you very much for that.
I know
the
the
universe began to exist,
it.
therefore the universe has a cause.
The atheist?
Yes.
I'm agnostic. I'm not atheist.
Sure. Fair enough.
I thought you were atheist, sorry. Yeah. With the argument.
I know the argument.
Okay.
But then, let's say that we have a series. I will say, but then, why there should be a cause to the universe? You would say because everything we've observed has a reason for it.
A cause,
so then,
yeah.
a cause. Then there should be a cause for the universe.
Yes, that follows.
But then I would ask you, why do we stop to God? Why there's no Father of God, or there's no Grand Creator of God?
The reason why is because necessarily that wouldn't solve anything. We need some kind of simple,
we need
single
point where
yes.
we stop. Exactly.
The question is what is that? Right?
Why is it your God?
Exactly.
Why it's not the grand God?
I'm not talking about Christianity yet.
No, I'm talking about the God that we're assuming.
Yeah, okay, so 1 second. Let's rationally deduct exactly what we can describe about this God. This God would have had to have been outside of space. He would have had to have been outside of time. He would have had to have been immensely powerful. Yes?
No.
You don't think so?
Why should he?
He was the origin of the
nowadays,
universe.
Because nowadays we can create my phone, the one that I have right now, is more powerful than me, and someone, a human like me,
I would
created.
disagree with that. I think the human mind is more powerful than a phone.
But then my phone, literally my calculator, if I go in and I put some random number that I can't solve myself, it will do it for me.
Yes, but you have consciousness.
It's
your
more
phone doesn't.
intelligent than me.
No. You're more intelligent than your phone. You have consciousness.
I literally just showed that my phone does functions more than what I can do.
Your phone can act as a computer, but you're as a human more than a computer. You're not just material.
Well, I'm
you're
just
also
functions.
mind.
I'm functions working.
Do you think do you have a mind?
I do, apparently.
So you think there is the material world and the immaterial world.
Sorry?
Do you affirm that?
Sorry?
Do you affirm that there's a material world and an immaterial world?
I don't know.
You don't know. But you do think you have a mind.
I think.
So I'm getting you to think about these things, but because I was going to say, if you affirm that mind exists, then there has to be things that are not material in nature, but immaterial in nature too.
Well, yeah, I would like to believe that there is some immaterial.
Okay,
but
so
that's belief.
Fine, but does your phone have a mind? No, but you do.
But then how me having the mind makes me better than my phone?
Because you can do things your phone can't do. You can.
And my phone can do
empathize.
things that I can't do.
Sure, but only
So
in
if
one
it's
area.
by things that who can do more,
Right.
then my phone can do way more things than it can do.
No, you can do way more things than your phone can do.
No.
You can empathize. You can socialize. You have awareness. You have
And these are
spirituality.
things that you choose.
You have morality. You have reason. Your
And
phone
these
doesn't
are
have
things
this,
that
huh?
you chose they're better because of the circumstance that we live in. Scientists would find my phone more useful than me because my phone does things more useful than me.
No matter what you build as a machine, you still need humans to operate, fix, and maintain the machine. The machine never replaces the human because the machine simply cannot do things that humans can do. Humans are self-aware. Humans have self-consciousness. We have emotional ability. We understand reason. A machine doesn't reason. It just follows a series of
That is
instructions.
true. But then what makes these things objectively better than what the things that my phone can do?
Do you believe that reason is objectively true?
Reasoning.
Reason. As an idea, as logic. Right. So you believe that you
Because
can reason,
that's the
yes?
only thing that we're trying to use to prove
Right,
love.
in this argument, we are assuming
exactly.
reason, right? So we both assume that we believe in that, and there's value in that, right? That's why we're talking about it. Because we assume that that's valid, we actually have innate within us the assumption that it is objective. Otherwise, what are we doing? Right, so we do affirm the objectivity of reason. We also do the same for morality, which goes back to what we said before. And ultimately, we do the same for truth. Because if we didn't think truth was objective, we wouldn't talk about it. Why would I be as passionate as I am about the truth if I thought it was all relative? Right, and likewise for you. So I think you do actually affirm the objective truths of many things. And I think the explanation for those, of the origin of those things, is to be found in the greatest conceivable being, outside of space and time, of whom is a logically necessary being, and it's not contingent. Because by affirming the basic theistic premise, you have a robust philosophy to which to launch yourself into having explanations for all these things. If you don't have that, you have a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of difficulties explaining why objective morality is true, why reason is really something you should follow. Why not be a nihilist? Why not deny the objective world? Like, why not? Like, I can't do that because I think there's an objective source outside of myself that is logically necessary that I'm called to follow.
Well, that's exactly. We're going back to the same point, which I don't like to repeat myself. But because the only thing that we have on the table is the sentient being that you're talking about, God.
I think there are. Remember, I did give examples of other things.
Yeah, but these are limited. We don't know how many are there.
Right, sure. Just in the same way, we don't know how many scientific theories there are, but we always follow the best scientific theory.
To our knowledge.
To our knowledge. You know, I'll be okay. How about this? How about we say, right now, it looks as if the best explanation for objective morality is a God of some sort, a logically necessary being.
Yeah.
Won't say any more about it. Just a logically necessary being. For now, would you agree with that? For now.
For now, yeah.
Hey, that's good. That's good. I think that's a good basis to launch yourself on. But follow that. Follow where that leads. Because it leads to great philosophical truths and ultimately, I believe as a Christian, to the truth. Because now you're getting into questions about who is that God? Is that God a personal God? Is he a deist God? Is he like a machine? And those are interesting questions. And I would humbly implore you to look into that.
It's nice what you just. It's nice what you just did, and I see it. But then first, we still did not agree on objective morality because I still don't see it.
Still don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, remember, I think that if you were to be consistent, you would have to affirm that you at least
I'm
act.
telling you, I'm not consistent.
Well, that's honest. That's honest.
I'm telling you because I'm telling you that it's subjective. There is no objective morality.
But then the world is absurd.
Well, it is.
I mean, ultimately, the Nazis are not either more right or wrong than us.
For them, for their time, they thought that what they were doing right.
I couldn't believe in that because I need a basis philosophically to be able to condemn Nazis.
Yeah, that was me when I was a believer. I needed a basis to condemn Nazism. But then it turned out that it's all for nothing.
Why is it all for nothing?
Like, the existence is for nothing. Sorry. My claim for existence, that is for nothing. So even if we condemn Nazism, they thought that we're doing the right thing. As us now, we think that by condemning them, we're doing the right thing. So it's subjective.
But I think that you would, if pushed, hold to the fact that you think that Nazism is objectively wrong.
Sorry?
I think that you would condemn Nazism. I mean, actually,
For my time. Because why did people support Nazism?
Oh, absolutely. People at the time were bought into that idea. But I don't think that has any bearing on whether there's subjective morality or objective. The point is it just proves that people can be convinced. And I completely agree, people can be convinced. But I think that there is an objective law that says that Nazism is wrong. So I can stand on that and I can say, regardless of what any man thinks, regardless of what you think, I think, anyone here thinks,
But then why there should
Nazism is still wrong.
But why there should be an objective thing that condemns Nazism?
Because I think that best explains my experience, your experience, and the experience of most people here.
Okay.
Because most people feel innately that there is something objectively wrong about Nazism.
How can you say that not because the way we're brought up?
Because I think that there are situations when you're...
You think?
Well, I think this is my thesis, my explanation, right? So I think that people can be brought up to be brainwashed and to not allow their experience to affect their reality. For example, with deep respect, when you tell me that you yourself acknowledge that morality is subjective, I think you're kind of going to do the same thing. You're denying objective experience, what you experience, and you're simply explaining it away intellectually. I think people back in the times of Nazis, they did very similar things because there was immense political pressure to do the same. When the Nazis went around killing Jews, I think deep down they knew what they were doing was wrong, but they had been brought up to not acknowledge that. You can read, for example, there's a book, I think it's like, I can't remember the name of the book, but there are books that detail the experience of SS troops who did this, and they openly say they cried as they did it.
Yeah.
That there was something in them that knew what they were doing was wrong, but they believed so much in the ideology.
So a question.
Yeah.
Probably you've heard that example before. If we get a child on day one, we put him in a room where there's nothing around him, and we give him food so he continues living, and he does not know anything about the world outside. And then we tell him what Nazis did. So you think that he will be like, that's wrong?
Yeah, I think that if you remove certain influences, there are people who innately understand what the difference between right and wrong is.
But then what I would say that I think.
So actually, what I will say though is I think that if you took someone completely out of into social isolation, they didn't know anybody, then I think that person would have serious problems. Because we know that in order to be a healthy person, you actually do, because we are social creatures. So whether we like it or not, you can't put the truth in a vacuum and say, take it away from the human mind, ignore all of that, treat it like a mathematical equation.
Okay.
You can't do that.
So what you're saying is that the experiences that we live
Yeah.
we should live through them to influence our decision.
Yeah, we cannot separate ourselves from our experiences.
Okay.
But I think that our experiences can reveal things. For example, when you grow up with others like a family, you understand what it means to empathize. You understand that if someone screams in agony, there is something innate within you that looks at that goes, that is wrong. I would say that if you don't understand that,
But
you
that's
have a
what you're
mental.
claiming without an evidence.
Well, I think it's best explains the evidence. That's what I'm saying. You can
That's
circular
circular logic. Because
Well,
I'm
no,
asking
no,
you
no,
for
no, no,
evidence,
no, no.
and then you're saying that's what best explains the evidence. We're going in
No,
this-
that's fine. That's perfectly valid. I'm not assuming that I'm all automatically true. I'm simply saying here is something we observe that we believe is true, like that there is suffering in the world. What best explains that? I say it's because innately we have some kind of experience within us as human beings that can look at something evil occurring, and that thing that we experience is a reflection of what actually is. In the same way that when you see something, you are seeing the objective world. When you hear something, you are hearing the objective world. I apply that same logic for those senses, and I apply it to morality, because just like those senses, morality is a sense. I sense right and wrong. If someone came up to you and just hit you in the face, God forbid, something in me would tell me that's wrong.
No, I think because we're constructed to think that's wrong.
Do you think that's true for any of your other senses?
What do you mean?
So, do you think that the reason that when you see something, like someone came up and hit me, and you saw it with your eyes, do you think the only reason you saw it was because you were brought up to believe that you would see it? I would say no.
I think
You're clearly seeing it, right?
but I think I would see it wrong because I'm brought up with my friends when someone
Right,
hits us, we see it wrong.
Right, you might perceive it differently to me because obviously you're standing there, I'm standing here,
So
we're
it
doing
is
perception.
subjective.
There is an element of subjectivity to it, but is the actual thing occurring? I would say yes. There is actually a
thing
person. Yeah, it is an objective thing. We simply differ over our experience of the objective thing. But even then, we have a lot in common. You saw someone hit me, I experienced someone hitting me, so we both confirm the same objective truth. We just have an element of subjectivity about it.
Yeah, and that's the point of question. Is that
Well, if you agree with that, then you do agree with objective reality, and I think that would also apply to all our senses, including morality.
well,
You would then have to explain why morality is different.
why morality is different, we touched upon it while we were talking, is that if he hits you, you might see it right, I might see it wrong. So that's subjective. But then the experience, as far as we know, we think it's subjective. But how do we know that our senses are not deceiving us?
Sure. Well, I would say that there is an element of common sense in that. If me and you both see the same thing, we would affirm that it actually happened, right?
To our observation.
Yes. Yes,
But
but see, I'm asking you to humble yourself a little bit and just think. If you saw someone attack this gentleman, God forbid, and I saw it, and you saw it, and me and you said to each other, we both saw it happen, are you going to deny that and say, that's just coincidence? It could be, that may not have actually happened, it could just be our minds playing tricks on us. I would say you would actually affirm it, wouldn't you? And every day you would say, yeah, that happened, I saw it.
But then I would ask you the question:
Yeah.
is that in a video game
Yeah.
where we have three NPCs
Yeah.
who think that they're living a true experience,
Yeah.
and two of them sees one of the other hitting the other one, then they observe it.
So you're saying
Is it objective
ultimately
reality?
this could all be like the Matrix, it could all
Could
be,
be. We don't know.
but you would have to give a positive argument for believing that. Because your experience doesn't tell you that.
No, for believing, I don't need to give a positive argument. For
Yeah,
saying
you do.
that it's a fact, I need to.
No. What I'm saying is, if you're going to posit the theory that we all live in the Matrix, you need to give a reason why.
No, I'm saying that this might be.
Because your experience doesn't tell you that. Your experience tells you this is real.
Well,
Like-
my experience in the video game told me that it might happen to me.
Right. I agree with you, it's a possibility, but you need to give arguments as to why. Otherwise, if there's no arguments, I'll simply say, it doesn't explain anything new. It's just a theoretical opportunity. If it explains something, like maybe it explains how we experience things,
But you
then
said
it
through
would be
our
good.
experiences,
Right, but our experiences tell us it's real.
and our experience in that video game tells us
Could
it
be,
might happen.
could be wrong.
Yeah,
But the possibility of it being wrong is not sufficient enough to believe it.
we don't know the possibility.
Well, we don't know. But what I'm saying is you need to give either it needs to explain something and be the best explanation of something, or it needs to be more probable than not. But if it isn't either of those two things, there's no reason to believe it. In which case, I'm simply going to say, actually, it is objective because my experience tells me it is, your experience tells you it is, and there's no reason to believe otherwise. Does that make sense?
I see where your argument is coming from.
I'll tell you what, I want to sort of wrap this up now if you will. Do you want to sort of summarize your point of view?
Is it okay if we listen?
Yeah, of course.
We're summarizing, we're wrapping. Well, my point of view is that what I saw, what you were saying, I see clearly where you're coming from. And I see that you're saying that there should be objective morality to our experiences, even though I still don't see, you did not back it up by why there should be objective morality, and why there should be objective reality. I see your argument where it's coming from, but I simply believe that it's just a belief. And since it's a belief, I'm not obliged to think so.
Not even the best explanation of an experience.
Even if it's the best explanation, I'm still not obliged because I need the evidence that I can sense.
Can I ask, is it the best explanation then? Even if you don't believe?
From the things that we had on the table, there might be things that I still don't know about myself.
Sure. Yeah, could possibly.
There might be a person here in the park who knows more than me.
But based off what we've talked about,
Of things on the table,
currently,
you have the best experience.
I'm happy with that. Thank you very much. What's your name?
Nice to Mark.
Mark. Oh, my name's Chris.
Nice to meet you.
Well, God bless. We were talking about objective morality. I made the case that objective morality is true, and that God, as a logically necessary being, is the best example of that objective morality. He
But
came
I
from
still
the...
don't see why there should be objective morality.
Okay, all right, fine.
That's conclusion for me.
Sure. No worries.
You can't do that without scripture.